So I'll try and start at the beginning with my breastfeeding journey with Sam, my first baby. He's now 3.5. He was born at 37 weeks via C-section because he was breech, and I started off with the intention to breastfeed him like many mums do, but this was very difficult. It wasn't because I had nipple pain or anything like that, but he was just such a sleepy baby, and he was really difficult to wake up in order to actually get him to latch and to feed. We had to strip him off and sponge him with a cold flannel to just get him to wake up, which seems really mean to do to a little tiny baby. When we got him to wake up and actually feed, he'd literally feed for a minute and then fall asleep again. Amongst all of this, I was a first-time mum, and I was doing some exams. I was studying so I could get my accountancy qualification here in New Zealand. So that was pretty stressful, having a small baby and trying to study. I think I did my exam when he was like 6 weeks old. So my mother and father-in-law were actually taking Sam and obviously feeding him on a bottle just so I could get some study done. I was breastfeeding him whenever I had him. I was breastfeeding him throughout the night, but he was being offered a lot of bottle, which people do warn you and do say that babies can get bottle preference because the flow's easier. So yeah, he was being offered a lot of bottle, and I was breastfeeding him the rest of the time. When I'd finished my exams, I decided, oh well, we don't need to offer him the bottle anymore because I'm here. I'm not studying it anymore, so I'll just breastfeed him full time. So we did that, and he seemed to me to be feeding fine, although he did seem to get upset a lot, which as a first-time mum, I was just thinking, oh, it's probably gas pain, or he's teething, or something else other than the obvious that he was actually hungry. I'd gone from offering him lots of bottles to just trying to breastfeed him 100%, and in hindsight, he was getting upset because he was hungry. But it wasn't until I took him to Plunkett and the Plunkett nurse weighed him and said, he's not putting on enough weight. He was putting on weight, but he wasn't putting on what they'd expect him to. So she just said, just offer him the breast and then top him up with a bottle, which I did. And the change from having a baby that was just seemed upset all the time to having such a content baby was just immediate. As soon as we started offering him top-ups, he just changed completely. It was really amazing. So yeah, so I forget the time that, the time scales because he's now 3.5. But I think we started offering him top-ups probably around 4 months old maybe, and then by the time he turned 5 months he had developed a preference for the bottle, and he'd started to refuse breastfeeding. So maybe by about 6 months old we'd stopped breastfeeding completely because he, I'd put him to the breast and he'd just cry and refuse it. I did feel a bit sad and like a bit disappointed that I couldn't breastfeed him, but I was so happy. I was so happy to have a happy baby. A fed baby is a happy baby, so that was fine. I thought that I'd learned. I thought that I'd sort of got to the bottom of why it happened. There was multiple contributing factors as to why we failed at breastfeeding. studying and being stressed, offering him a bottle heaps, probably not pumping enough when I should have been. Yeah, sleepy baby, offering him a bottle lots with formula in, yeah. So my second baby, Ava, she was also born via C-section, although she wasn't breech. I did actually try for a VBAC, but that failed, and she was born via C-section too. However, Sam and Ava were completely different babies. While Sam was born at 37 weeks, Ava was born at 41 weeks, and she was so awake. Like they pulled her out and her eyes were like wide open. She was crying. You know, when I went back from the operating theatre into my hospital room, I just thought, this baby never closes her eyes, you know, she's just awake all the time. And she's the same now. Like, we have got her into a good sleeping routine, but she is so awake. It's so hard to get her to go to sleep in the pram or in the car seat, which meant in terms of breastfeeding that she could stay awake for a feed, which was fantastic. My nipples didn't hurt either, which was great. Maybe I've just got really insensitive nipples, but that's a bonus in terms of breastfeeding. And I wasn't studying for an exam this time, so, you know, theoretically, I wasn't stressed. So, yeah, breastfeeding. I might just put this little one down on the floor to play. Just hold on a second. So I'll just put Ava down on the mat and I'll try and speed the story up so we can get through it before she starts crying. So Ava is a completely different baby to Sam because she was born at 41 weeks. Sam was born at 37 weeks, was so sleepy. Ava was awake and she could latch. She didn't have a tongue tie. Please excuse me, I'll just grab her. I wasn't doing an exam, so I wasn't stressed. So I thought, perfect, this breastfeeding journey is going to go a lot smoother than it did with Sam. And it did initially, but unfortunately, again, we went to Plunket, they weighed her and they said, she's not putting on enough weight, you need to top her up. Oh no, the first time they said she's not putting on enough weight, just, you know, try and feed her more often, and I did. But then we went back the second time and they said, oh, she's still not putting on enough weight. You know, we recommend that you top her up with a bottle, which I did. And, you know, she, again, it wasn't a marked change like it was with Sam, in terms of like behaviour. But, you know, she was a lot happier after the top up with the bottle. I could just tell, you know, she was just more content. Evie. She's now 4.5 months old, and we started giving her 1 bottle a day. Yeah, because that's the thing. She wouldn't. She didn't take to the bottle initially, just like Sam did. Evie, Evie. She didn't take to the bottle as well as Sam did. So I'd have to offer her the bottle. Not directly after the breast because she didn't swap between the nipple and the teat that well. So I'd offer her the bottle like at lunchtime, and she'd have that, and then she started getting used to the bottle, which was great, you know, because initially she just hated having a bottle. She'd prefer the breast. Evie. So now we're at the stage. Well, we progressed to, what did she have? She had 150ml bottle at lunch and then 150ml before bed. Although now she is again developing a bottle preference, and she has 3 bottles a day, morning, lunchtime and before bed. And I think I'm going to lose my supply soon because she really just hates the boob. She likes one boob but hates the other boob. Evie girl, sweet pea. So I've not really been that successful with breastfeeding. I really made an effort to try a lot more with Ava. The GP prescribed me some tablets called domperidone, just to help my increase my milk supply, because at first when the Plunkett said she wasn't putting on enough weight, I thought, oh, this happened with Sam too, maybe it's an issue with me, maybe I just don't produce enough milk, which I think is part of the issue. But breastfeeding is so difficult. You've got to be so on top of making sure that you drink enough, making sure that you eat enough protein. Stress can affect it, everything can affect it, and I think I'm just one of those women that really find it difficult to produce enough breast milk. And I really do just think fed is best, and I really just like happy babies. So whether you can breastfeed them or bottle feed them, either with breast milk or formula, it doesn't really matter as long as your baby's happy. This baby just needs a nappy change and probably some more bottles, to be honest. So I'm going to go and I'm going to do that. Avie. And I hope you like listening to the breastfeeding journey. I'll speak to you soon. Bye.